Hey everyone, welcome back yet again. Today we're talking about one of the arguably most dangerous bills to ever come up in the House of Commons in Canada's history. We're talking today about a reintroduction of the Online and Offline Harms Act, Bill C-9. Okay, so Bill C-9, just by the first part of this here, you're going to recognize exactly what they're trying to do. I'm still going to break it down for you, and please don't try and get too angry. I'm just breaking down the bills. This is what the Liberal government of Canada is trying to put in place to take away more of your freedom. Bill C-9, an act to amend the criminal code, and in brackets here, hate propaganda, hate crime, and access to religious or cultural places. His Majesty, by and with the advice and consent of the Senate and House of Commons of Canada, enacts as follows. The short title is, this act may be cited as the Combating Hate Act. And with the criminal code, paragraph A of the definition offense in section 183 of the criminal code is amended by adding the following after subparagraph 1. Section 423.3, intimidation, building used for religious worship, etc. Subsection 318, part 3 of the Act is repealed. Section 319 of the Act is amended by adding the following after subsection 2.1, willful promotion of hatred, terrorism, and hate symbols. Everyone commits an offense who willfully promotes hatred against any identifiable group by displaying in any public place a symbol that is principally used by or principally associated with a listed entity as defined in subsection 83.01. B here is the Nazi Hakenkreuz, also known as the Nazi swastika or the Nazi double sigrun, also known as the SS bolts. Or C, a symbol that so nearly resembles a symbol described in paragraph A or B that it is likely to be confused with that symbol. Now, this is very interesting because, as we all know, conservatives in this country typically get labeled with these buzzwords, and realistically, those that are liberal and on the left don't actually know what the words mean, and using the term hate is actually a very subjective term, which could mean anything, really. Someone who disagrees with your opinion, it's now defined as hate. Conservatives are constantly being labeled as Nazis or being labeled as some type of fascist, and for them to say here in subsection 2.2, willfully promotes hatred against any identifiable group, that this, to me, it says, again, that hatred can be anything, because if you can point out facts or flawed logic or missing parts of a left-wing ideology, they label it as promoting hatred against them. Or if you disagree with the LGBTQ community, that's promoting hatred against them. This is a bill, at least the part of this bill is taking away your right to even disagree with someone. So this is very questionable already right from the start. Okay, now in this part of the bill, we're going to go over the punishments for basically having a difference of opinion. So everyone who commits an offense under subsection 2.2 is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to imprisonment for a term not exceeding 2 years, similar to Bill C-8, right? Is guilty of an offense punishable on summary conviction. And subsections 319.4 to 6 of the Act are replaced by the following defenses. No person shall be convicted of an offense under subsection 2.2 if the display of the symbol was for a legitimate purpose, including a legitimate purpose related to journalism, religion, education, or art that is not contrary to the public interest, or if in good faith the display of the symbol was intended to point out, for the purpose of removal, matters producing or tending to produce feelings of hatred towards an identifiable group in Canada. And under forfeiture here, If a person is convicted of an offense under subsection 1, 2, 2.1, or 2.2, or section 318, anything by means of or in relation to which the offense was committed on such conviction may, in addition to any other punishment imposed, be ordered by the presiding provincial court judge or judge to be forfeited to His Majesty in right of the province in which that person is convicted for disposal, as the Attorney General may direct. Okay, so you basically don't have a defense to this, right? Because under the punishment where it says you're guilty of an indictable offense and can face up to 2 years in prison. Now, recently, we saw the outcome of Chris Barber and Tamara Litch with the Freedom Convoy. This kind of relates in with that a little bit. They got not necessarily imprisonment, but they did get house arrest for 18 months, so just short of that 2-year term. So they were still found guilty on trumped up charges, essentially made up by the Liberal government in the past few years. And under the defenses, where we look at Part A, the display of the symbol was for a legitimate purpose, including a legitimate purpose related to journalism, religion, education, or art that is not contrary to the public interest. So here we see even an outlet like Rebel News, who are legitimate journalists, are constantly thrown out of events, arrested just for showing up at events that, are deemed an opposite view of what they report on. So even for journalism, they're going to throw that one right out the window at you, and you're basically screwed yet again. Oh, and before I forget to mention, on top of the possible imprisonment for 2 years, they can also seize a lot of your assets or force you to forfeit them. Similar, again, to what they're doing with Chris Barber, potentially, we don't know yet, but potentially trying to force him to forfeit Big Red, his truck that he uses for his work every day. Because to the Canadian federal government, it itself is a symbol of hate. Can't make this stuff up. Okay, if you scroll down a little bit in this bill, they've changed the definition of hate crime as well. Doesn't look good for anyone who's not a liberal. So now it says offense motivated by hatred. Everyone who commits an offense referred to in this section as the included offense under this act or any other act of Parliament, if the commission of the included offense is motivated by hatred based on race, national or ethnic origin, language, color, religion, sex, age, mental or physical disability, sexual orientation, or gender identity or expression, is guilty of an indictable offense and liable to the punishment provided for in subsection 5. So again, that 2 years imprisonment, or guilty of an offense punishable on summary conviction. And the definition of hatred here is, as mentioned before, in subsection 319, as we had gone over. And just the clarification on this part of hate crime. For greater certainty, the commission of an offense under this act or any other act of Parliament is not, for the purposes of this section, motivated by hatred based on any of the factors mentioned in subsection 1, solely because it discredits, humiliates, hurts, or offends. So even so, with this, even if, there was something you said or did, even if it was not motivated by hatred, just because it discredits somebody, humiliates, hurts, or offends someone's feelings, as we see the left happens all the time, even if that was not your motivation or intention, it doesn't matter to them. You can still be arrested and convicted for this. Now, just when you thought this bill could not get worse, it does. Because this again goes under the punishments, and this is just down a bit further from the hate crime section. So, the maximum penalty. As mentioned before, they said it was only 2 years. But there's, of course, exceptions to that, as there is every time. So, maximum penalty, it's up on the screen. Everyone who is found guilty of an indictable offense under subsection 1 is liable to a term of imprisonment of not more than 5 years if the maximum term of imprisonment for the included offense is 2 years or more, but less than 5 years. 10 years if the maximum term of imprisonment for the included offense is 5 years or more, but less than 10 years. 14 years if the maximum term of imprisonment for the included offense is 10 years or more, but less than 14 years. Or D, finally, life if the maximum term of imprisonment for the included offense is 14 years or more, and up to imprisonment for life. And as we all know, in Canada, life is actually defined at 25 years. So if the offense is deemed bad enough, and this is typically by a liberal judge or a judge appointed by the federal government, you could potentially, in an extreme situation, be facing 25 years in prison for hurting someone's feelings. Folks, Canada's done for. So now that we've gone through bills that could possibly be passed if they receive the votes in favor of it in the House of Commons, just before we wrap up here, I do want to educate you a little bit on what options you have if these are things that you don't want to see in your future and you believe will put your family at risk or yourself at risk. I believe your only options here are to claim asylum in the United States. President Donald Trump has said Canadians who are subject to political persecution do have the option to do so, and some cases will actually get expedited to happen quicker. The only usual thing with those, and maybe there will be exceptions to this, is that if you are deemed eligible for your asylum claim to live in the US, is obviously within 6 months you have to find steady work, or if not that, then you have to have enough money to support yourself, but you're given that 6-month time frame to do so. And from my understanding, as well as I have done research on it before, if your asylum claim is denied, they will not send you back to Canada. So you do not have to worry about that, but they will send you to a country that has some type of immigration partnership with the United States that has an equal or greater level of freedom. Now, the US has a pretty high level of freedom as protected by the US Constitution, but from my basic knowledge, a lot of those countries you're looking at would either be in some parts of Europe, which are still iffy due to the European Union having some influence there, or even as a Canadian, I know there are some people who have decided to even skip the US and move down to Mexico, as the cost of living there is a tenth of what it is in Canada at this point. And there are some people who don't like what's going on in Canada and don't like what's going on in the US either, so they still choose Mexico. Anyway, hopefully this was educational enough for you to make a decision on your life and your future going forward, whether you stay in Canada or not. That's all this is a name to educate and put things in perspective as to where this country is headed. For my folks in Alberta, you better pray your independence referendum passes with a resounding yes. Otherwise, the Canadian citizens, those born here, are going to be fleeing the country en masse. I'll see you soon.
Los que creyeron que después de nuestras victorias militares nos iban a aplastar en el campo de la información, nos iban a aplastar en el campo de la opinión pública, se han encontrado con que la revolución cubana sabe también pelear y ganar batallas en ese campo.